All right, friends, so welcome in. We are officially live on the YouTube channel, and we are also, of course, live here on Discord. This stream is a little bit unusual from our normal events that we host through our YouTube channel or our normal live sessions, such as the Buddha Book Club or our meditation groups. This is a lecture series or an open Q&A space for young men on the self-improvement journey that are joining this live stream through Discord, and probably some of them will watch this lecture later on through YouTube. I'm joined today by Brother Nalaka, or Brother Diamond, who is a dear friend of mine and has been a Buddhist monk and on the path of self-improvement for
over 4 years.
Over 4 years. I myself, for those who don't know, have been a bhikshu, have been a monk for 5 years, and I've been on the self-improvement or meditation journey for about 10 years, since I was 20 years old. While we are both Buddhist monks, and a lot of what we share and are influenced by is in the realm or in the tradition of Buddhism, it's really good to understand that we are not here to convert anyone to be Buddhist.
Correct.
It's not my interest. I know it's not Brother Diamond's interest for anyone here to become Buddhist, but rather that for Western people, and especially in this case for kind of young men on the self-improvement journey, Buddhism is a kind of philosophy, a kind of way of life, a way that we can approach our suffering, our mind, and transform it, right? And work with it in a meaningful way to bring about healing to mental sufferings, healing to social sufferings, emotional sufferings, etc. And that's kind of what we're going to be emphasizing or talking about today. Because this is primarily a Q&A, and we may do a short guided meditation a little bit later on in the session, the direction that we go in is going to be very much up to who's here, who has questions, whether you're watching through YouTube or through the Discord. The questions that you ask will guide and format this live session that we have together. Okay? Before we get into the Q&A, I just want to bring up one major point about the self-improvement path from the Buddhist perspective, that primarily we are concerned with the mind. So of course, mental and physical health go together to a large extent, but we are primarily concerned with the mind, and not just the health of the mind, but the strength, the power, the deep understanding of the mind, and by extension, reality. And we have a very solid, very clear understanding, and you'll also find this in like Stoic philosophy from the Western side of things, that the foundation of the spiritual path or the Stoic path, or this like becoming enlightened, becoming individuated, having a mind that is stable, free, and powerful, the foundation is virtue. To prioritize, to be a good person, to be careful, to be mindful, to be aware of your mental, physical, and verbal actions and how they have an effect in your life. So one of the best teachings, or the clearest teachings I hope that you guys can get from this lecture, is that if you're serious about self-improvement, be serious or be very sincere about being good. Doing actions of generosity, noticing that stuff that you do that might feel good, it might feel very good, but it's not good for you, and you know that. And also recognizing those things that may be difficult, may be inconvenient, may be unpleasant, but they are good for you, and choosing to do them more. And if you can start to do that, you'll make a lot of headway on the self-improvement journey for sure, just from that foundation. All right. Brother Diamond, do you want to say anything before we open it up for
We
Q
can
and
go
A?
right to Q&A. You've done a
Okay.
wonderful job with that intro. I
Okay.
concur with everything you said.
And guys, we are not here as your bosses, or we're not superior to you. It's not something like that, but rather, I'm 30. Brother Nalaka is a 40.
42 years young.
42.
42 years around the sun.
And we've had plenty of suffering. We've had plenty of confusions. We've had plenty of issues, right, in our lives that we've had to deal with, right, that we've had to manage. And being here, you get to learn from our experience, ask sincere and meaningful questions, and hopefully grow on your path, all right? So let's open it up for anyone who has
Well, I
any.
did want to add that I, too, have been on the spiritual path for a long time, since I was in my teens, actually.
But you were a bodybuilder also. You were heavy in the
Yeah, I was in
gym.
the
You
power
were,
building before it was called power building, just lifting heavy weights and building the body. And I got addicted to that. Basically, whatever I'm into, I'm really into it.
yeah.
Like that lady said, a friend of hers, when she came here to visit. She said, when I like something, I really like it, and I laughed and smiled because that's my personality. It's addictive personality trait, for sure. But in this sense, I mean, liking meditation, that's a healthy obsession, right? So not a problem.
All right. So you guys can go ahead and ask any question that you have,
Can
and
you
to
see
either
that? Or do you want to go straight
me
up?
or
Brother Diamond.
Brother Diamond. Yeah.
And you can say Bhikkhu, Nalika.
To both of you guys, because obviously you guys look pretty experienced. Like, what's the best way to keep a positive mindset and positive attitude, like, throughout all these negative situations, like you were just talking about?
Excellent, Vincent. Actually, I was just talking to a few guests here and a former monk about how this, where we are at Deer Park Monastery, is a microcosm of the world. We have representatives from the Jewish community, black African American like myself, Mexican monk here, Mexican American, people with French backgrounds, Italian backgrounds, and we are happy together to practice in mindfulness, to eat slowly with joy and attention, which is an aspect of mindfulness. And that is how we are able to be happy and peaceful. Not just from being alone and meditating and watching the mind, but a joyful community like what they have at Deer Park Monastery here in Southern California. That is important, and that's what is missing in many people's lives. Not just positive thinking, but for you to experience an environment like we are experiencing here, that contributes to what you're seeking. That's how you will have a more positive mindset and hence outlook.
Right. So this is one of the big lessons as well that we've got to learn is we can mainly improve according to certain causes and conditions. Right? There is a limit to your willpower. There is a limit to your drive, right? There's a limit to your capacities. And so how we take steps forward to be in communities, to be in environments, to be in relationship with people who can help us to self-improve, to have a stable mind, to have a relationship with virtue, like being good, right? Being mindful, being stable, being grounded. And that's what should be one of our greatest aspirations. You know, as a young person stepping into being a young man, or being a man, being a leader, is to really be grounded, right? To have solid footing in the present moment, in this experience, right? In the here and now, rather than just being lost in thinking. So finding community is very, very important. And making that a part of your journey, like how you're going in a certain direction to grow and improve and learn, and trying to find spaces that support that and making that a priority, rather rather than setting up this mindset where it's like you need to force this thing to happen in a certain way, otherwise it won't. You need support.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen without the supportive conditions. So how do we move towards them, and how do we stay in those conditions as much as we can to grow? All right? Got it?
Thank you for the question, Vincent. The audio is perfect, brother. Loud and clear.
And when we have the space like this, right? We can say the intermission between thoughts or experiences or questions. We don't need to rush off anywhere. Yeah, we are going to go in a certain direction according to our habit energies, right? We are going to go towards the eating or the phone or the thing that we enjoy, right? But there's also all these moments and all these opportunities for stopping, for settling down, for just being mindful in the midst of activity, right? Stopping in the midst of activity. It's very nourishing if you can learn how to do that more often, right? Find those stopping points. Find those mindfulness points. Find those points in your day or in your mind where you don't need to do anything, you don't need to go anywhere. Just being mindful, just being aware is more than enough.
Inactivity is more important than constant activity, would you say?
Yeah, because we're stuck. We're lost in compulsive activity. And we think that if we do this activity rather than that activity, we're somehow going to like ultimately get what we want or feel satisfied. But you find satisfaction in peace. You find satisfaction in the well-being of not rushing around, not being stuck, not being attached to some goal or doing something or not doing something. So yeah, we need to do more of those skillful activities. We need to do less unskillful activities, but we also have to find that space of not doing and know that not only is that like a genuine and authentic and realistic way to be, but that it's actually essential to your humanness. It's essential to the health and the robustness of your mind. That you know how to stop and just be aware. Just breathe and be mindful. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just happiness, just peace.
Contentment.
Just aware.
And also to add to his question and to what you said, we spend most of our time outside of formal meditation, so that stopping is very important throughout the day and night. Wake up in the middle of the night, go to your breathing, watch the mind, just be aware, go back to sleep. And that creates mindful energy, and then you'll be meditative. You'll know meditative living. And that's more important than just meditating here and there.
That's it. And that's very important for you guys to understand as well. If you're serious about like being interested in meditation, it's not about you starting to meditate even 20 minutes a day or an hour a day. It's not sustainable. And some of these apps can help you start. They can help introduce you to like the exercise of meditation. But unless you understand the principle, unless you understand the way of approaching life that is meditative, right? Then you'll get burnt out on what you think is meditation, but is actually just a kind of grasping. It's a kind of exercise. Whereas being mindful or recognizing like the present moment that's here right now, the stillness in the midst of all this activity, the nothing to do and nowhere to go in the midst of this big life with all these responsibilities and expectations, etc., that's not just doing an exercise, that's coming home. That's arriving at reality. That's tuning the dial to what is. And this is a superpower to learn about that, start practicing with that.
That's the real superpower right there. Not reading minds or flying, levitating. Just to stop and see clearly. That is the superpower. Being aware of awareness itself. Metacognition. Introspective awareness. That is the superpower that we have as human beings.
And anyone who's joining on YouTube, don't be shy to ask a question. And Hoalu, I see you there. Thank you so much, Hoa Lu, for the flower offering you sent recently. Very much appreciated.
Do you think there's like a time like throughout the day where it's like better to meditate, like in the morning or like before you go to bed? Or like, I just want to get your opinion on that.
Well, think about it like this. Is there a time that's better to breathe? When's the best time to breathe in your daily life?
Always?
Two-part. Always, for sure. Okay, always. But also, right now. Now is the time to be mindful. Now is the time to connect, to be here, to really tune in. You can't do anything except for right now. And you've got to start touching, you've got to start recognizing that nowness, that right nowness, and that it really is right now. And that this is all you've got. So connect with it, be mindful of it, forgive in it. Right? Forgive all that past and future, forgive all that complicated thinking, all that stuff, all those good and bad actions. Just come home to freedom.
So to add to that, yes, but you also do want to have a good practice of waking up and meditating in the morning and before bed. The last thing you want to do before you sleep, the best thing you can do is just be aware, and formal meditation helps with that for most people until it becomes effortless, and then you're always meditative. But that's something that's far fetched for most of us, for most people. It takes years of practice and dedication. So in the meantime, at least 5 to 6 days a week, as I told someone recently online, you want structure. You want 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the morning and evening. And that is your base foundation. And then throughout the day, of course, go back to awareness through the breath, through a mindfulness verse or a mantra if that's your preferred spiritual technique. That helps.
Okay,
About defeat.
yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, what was that?
Cody.
Why defeat? Just can't get over it.
What's
Even
that?
like prayer.
You're
I
breaking up
can't
really
get
badly.
over. I can't get over lust. Like when I try in prayer, it's really hard.
Why would you expect to get over lust? That is a primal driving force. That's evolutionary
It's
psychology. That's part of the core of our corporeal, the core of our corporeal human animal existence. It's foolish to think you can
it's
transcend it. Can you be in harmony with it is the question. You
so
think
how
you
do I
don't
make
have
that
lust?
happen?
Repeat what you were saying, Cody, right? Cody. Please
Yeah. How
repeat
do
that
I
again.
how do I get in harmony with it so it doesn't control me?
There are many techniques. I don't know your diet, but eating too much is a problem. So you can experiment with intermittent
Yeah.
fasting. First of all, Buddhist monks, we're not like Christian monastics, or we don't have the worldview that we're born into sin, just to be clear on that. No one here is saying sex is bad or masturbation is bad. So, for the record, note that we're not demonizing sexuality. The question is, do you have a harmonious life? Do you feel that you are in control, or do you feel that you're just a slave of passions and habits? And if that's the case, which it probably is, then we can talk about what you can do about that so that you become a master of the mind slash body and not the servant, the slave. having desires are okay as long as you don't act upon them. And when you do it in an ethical manner. So if you're not a monastic like us, that means you can have a healthy relationships that ships that entails ethics and honesty, transparency, kindness. Whether you're in a monogamous or polyamorous relationship, there's lots of more popular forms of relationships these days that are not new but are being popularized or talked about online. But at the core of that should be ethics, should be honesty and kindness. Are you harming yourself? Are you manipulating others based upon greed? If the answer is no, then no problem. Now, if you act upon every impulse whenever it arises, you are a slave, and that's a problem. If you do something occasionally, you're not addicted to it. And if it doesn't harm your mind and body, it's not a problem. And that's how we view things as practitioners of the Dharma, particularly the Dharma expressed by Buddha.
You can try to, next time that urge comes up, you can try to practice mindful masturbation, or don't use a pornography or anything like that. Don't let yourself get so overwhelmed. Just focus on your breathing, focus on the physical sensations, and you can practice that. That's not too big of a deal. Every week or something like that, it's normal, right? So don't shame yourself or blame yourself about these kinds of things that are natural.
Well said, I agree.
But
I
we're
co-sign that statement.
We're supposed to control our sexual desires according to the Bible. I know you guys don't believe in it, but
Well,
I think
you
that should
need
be
to be
understood.
careful. Controlling is not
Be
rejecting. Controlling is not destroying or something like that, right? The teaching in the Bible is not to destroy the body, is it? All right. So in that sense, you need to be really, really open to not losing yourself in desire for sexuality, but also not trying to get rid of it or destroy it, because you can't. You can't control the mind or the body in that way. But what you can do is be more mindful about what you do and how you do it. Okay, and don't because when you try to control it or when you try to reject it, you're going to get lost in all that energy, right? Because you're not able to control or reject it. All right? So just try to be more mindful and have a healthier relationship with it.
With your body, yes. Correct.
Would daily, like, how do I take charge of the situation? Like,
You're
I
not
understand
taking
how
charge of the
practice.
situation. You're not going to take charge of a mountain. You're not going to take charge of the flow of blood in your body. You're not going to take charge of the hormones in your body. It's not possible. So you need to drop the illusion that you can take charge of it. What you can do is develop a healthier relationship with it, with your sexual energy. If you exercise more, then it can be helpful. If you feel a lot of sexual energy and then you say, okay, I'm going to masturbate or do whatever, then just do that and don't watch porn.
Right.
Don't get lost in these, negative thoughts, negative things that can come up with sexuality when you try to repress it.
Is that really healthy, though?
Is it healthy to masturbate? Is that what you're saying?
To, I suppose, yeah, to give in to
You're,
desires.
it's normal.
Right. It's healthy. I mean, you can go
It's
look
completely normal.
at perfectly normal.
What's
and
not
healthy.
healthy is trying to control or suppress
Right.
different natural energies that you have in your body in an unskillful way. And what it leads to, as like what you said, is this porn problem. There's nothing inherently evil or wrong with masturbation.
Right.
It's not like the devil is in masturbation itself. It's just it's human sexuality that people masturbate. Right?
Right. I mean,
So,
you guys aren't Christian, but God says to go and multiply, which is like using what God's
well,
given you.
listen, if
But
you want
that's not
to
like,
if you want to focus on like preaching Christianity, then that's different from learning how to relate to your body in a more healthy way. He says, "Go forth
okay.
and multiply." That doesn't mean that you try to force yourself to not masturbate and then get so overwhelmed by the sexual energy that you go and watch porn. Is that God's message?
That's also a clearly
No.
patriarchal
No, of course
message.
that's not God's message, right?
Right.
So God's message is to control and take care more of your mind and of your life and to be virtuous, to be a good man,
Yeah.
right? And there's nothing inherent, you're not hurting anyone, you're not hurting yourself by masturbating. You're hurting yourself by watching porn and getting yourself stuck in this thought loop of judgment and negativity. You're not God, are you? So it's not your role to judge yourself like that or to take like this, try to think that you're going to be able to control your mind in that way. You're just trying to follow in the footsteps. And that means you're learning how to be compassionate with yourself, understanding with yourself, and you've got to experiment with different things. It's not a black or white. It's not an ultimatum. I need to watch porn and be very upset once a week or once every 2 weeks, or I need to fully control all of my sexual energy. You need to experiment and learn and be patient with yourself and gentle with yourself, but you're already learning that certain things don't work, right? So you're saying that I try to suppress my sexual energy and all sexual activity, and then it gets built up to a point where now I go and I'm watching pornography and I really upset myself and it becomes a really difficult thing, right?
But masturbation still feels wrong. Like, I don't know.
So examine that.
Yeah, examine it.
Why does
Look
it
at
feel
that
wrong? I
feeling.
guarantee you it's from the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Well,
Because I had to get through that myself, and I did. So I'm living proof that I got beyond it.
you just got to look at that feeling. Be willing to look at that feeling. Don't be so fearful of what you feel.
Yeah,
What you feel is
why
going
am I
to
ashamed?
inform you, help you learn and grow, to listen deeply to what you feel, what you go through.
Okay. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Don't just be like like a religious Christian. Be a spiritual Christian. Be a practitioner, right? Bring this to prayer. Is God a loving God, or is God a God of judgment and hate and shame and blame, right? You can't control yourself, so that's why you need to go to hell. Is that God? No. It's a loving God, right? So prayer, meditation, taking care of your body and mind as best you can and trying to find that path to do that, which is going to take a long time. But as you're finding that, if you're overly unnecessarily judgmental with yourself, or you set up these big rigid views and ideas with yourself, then you're going to miss out on that learning process. You understand? So just be more open.
Yeah.
And if you know that it really doesn't feel good when you watch porn, then don't watch porn. And the next time that energy comes up, you can try to be very mindful and just focus on your body and your breathing when you do that. And don't let your thoughts control you. And you may find at that time that you don't need to or want to do that practice.
Okay. Thanks,
All right?
guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So before we continue, we've got a couple questions that came in through TikTok. We've got one question from Jamie. Jamie says, "How do you make money? Do you work?" Maybe you can take that, Brother Diamond.
Most monastics make this lifestyle our profession. And so we don't charge money. We have faith that people will offer us the four requisites: food, lodging, to shelter, and food and medicine / vitamins these days, supplements. And that's what I've experienced. People offer us sometimes more than what we need because they are inspired by what we do to turn our back on ordinary ways of the world and yet still be happy and peaceful without a nice new vehicle, without a relationship, a romantic or sexual relationship, but we have healthy platonic relationships as contemplatives, as monks, monastics. But there are a few monks that do work, so I just want to be clear. I'm not naive about that. Some monastics work, especially if they don't have a community of people to support them. But usually they don't work long. And once they have supporters, they stop and focus on meditation and good deeds, helping others, feeding people, and teaching the Dharma.
And this is a pretty big question for us as monastics. Not so much about like where do we live and what do we eat and how do we take care of our basic needs, because Buddhism is very established. So, there are Buddhist temples all around the world, Buddhist countries, and there's a lot of access points for support, right? But the question becomes more almost, how do we build community? How do we expand on the work that we're doing? How do we develop resources not only for ourselves, but for the community of meditators, for people in need? Monks often become to be in the position of, what is it, like nonprofit organizers, redistributing wealth and running charities and things like that for impoverished people. So, but also building Dhamma centers, right? Building community centers where people can come and stay and practice, and where this path can become more like grounded in reality, more solidified. And then there's more opportunities for people to know the Dhamma in that, to connect in that. All right, let's go to...
What was the other question?
Yeah, what's the other question here?
And then
I wanted to ask about the self-inflicted isolation and being a hermit, a recluse. Can I be a healthy recluse or not? Thanks.
Well, it's possible, but it's very difficult. Now, you may have a certain disposition to practice like that, right? To be in a more solitary environment, focus more on yourself. But for most people, it takes a lot of training, and it takes a lot of teaching and development from the community of people who are more experienced in meditation and the deep teachings, the deep understandings of spiritual life, before someone can kind of sustain their mind or their peace or their well-being in an isolated format, kind of living like a hermit.
Time.
Yeah, so we should try to be in community. We really do need community as human beings. And if you do live let's say a hermetic life, right, a more isolated and more alone, you may find that actually you're able to live like that because you're consuming all of these things that are like faux sources of nourishment, community nourishment. So you're watching YouTube, or you're watching TikTok, or you're watching these movies, you're connected, you're playing video games, all these different stuff that you're consuming, or reading books and stories that are filling in this space where actually you need community, you need guidance, you need siblinghood, right? You need elders, you need that kind of deep support that goes along with community. We may not all be able to find that, but if we can recognize that it's very valuable, then we can go a little bit more in that direction. And when the opportunity arises for us to have a connection with community, we take it, we step into it.
And just to be clear, since you didn't point out, we live a hermetic life. We spend a great deal of the year alone, or at least more isolated than what you can experience here in this communal context. And yet we make time several months a year to be with a community. So you want balance, even if you are living the life of a hermit, a swami, a yogi, a sannyasi, like they used to do and still do in India and Nepal, Tibet. They still, and we still need community at times. Balance, yin yang. Remember the symbol balance. We are social creatures, after all. Remember that.
Okay, so we have two questions and one a kind of comment on the YouTube. Masuda says things are out of whack on my end. Things are not chaotic, but they sure aren't harmonic. So maybe the question is what to do when things are out of whack, when we aren't able to tune into that harmonization with our life and with the world that we find ourselves in. You want to say something about that, brother?
Yes, I'm just reflecting on it for a few moments. The awareness that allows you to see that things are not chaotic, but they aren't harmonic, hence optimal, is the same type of awareness you can use to create harmony, to be in sync, which is harmony. Remember the band In Sync? It means being in harmony. First, you need to be aware of the situation. So focus on that awareness itself, and you'll be in harmony. That's a very zenful answer. Short, sweet. Be the awareness itself, and you'll always be in sync. Awareness is always harmonious. Awareness itself is harmony, is perfect pitch, is contentment, is true happiness.
Yeah, another way we can say this is kind of to stop the emphasis on having a chaotic mind or having a stable mind, and kind of turn towards that awareness which knows, right? Turn the mind around. Stop looking towards the content and turn the mind around to see itself.
Yes.
Just the awareness itself. Tune into that. Stay with it. Breathe with it.
Back at yourself.
Okay. David Barrett says, do you or Brother D ever see your choice to live monastic life as a stage or level that may change someday and return to layman life with your wisdom gained for a capitalist-driven world?
Not necessarily for a capitalist-driven world, because you can go back to the world and not be driven by the capitalistic impulse. But I won't go into all of that now. But succinct answer, yes, of course. The Buddhist has talked about a raft and a finger pointing to the moon. That applies to every aspect of Dharma. Some monastics don't agree with that, but I have no problem with saying that live right now. Nirvana is not the end. This is a limitless existence we call reality, and we only know a sliver of it. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is a vast ocean. I love that quote from the series Dark on Netflix. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is a vast ocean. And this is a drop. This robe I have on is the drop, not the vast ocean. Would you disagree with that, Bhante? It's a form. It's the raft. It's useful. Not the vast ocean. This color of my skin, a drop, not the vast ocean. Me being a male, heterosexual, etc. Drop, not the vast ocean. Gender exists as a drop. It's not the vast ocean. Catch that. That's very important, because that's how you can cut through a lot of the madness in the world right now. Drops, not the vast ocean.
We can try to abandon the striving for another place or another time, and it takes a lot of bravery to put down the self in the midst of all these drops, in the midst of all these experiences and point of views and mistakes and successes and our humanness, our fallibility, right? We're not enlightened. We're not ultimate beings of compassionate spiritual light. We make mistakes, right? And to be willing to take responsibility for that and face that, but also to forgive it,
Yes.
right? To forgive our identity, to forgive ourself, to forgive someone, to forgive some place, to forgive some time, just to end it. It takes a lot of bravery to do that because it's really diving into this ocean, this vast, vast ocean. And it is an ocean of peace. It is an ocean of freedom and healing, but it is deep and dark and
Deep and dark.
yeah.
Unknown. We're like, what's in there? We don't know.
Go ahead, Fifth.
Hello. Would you say it's appropriate to forgive someone even if they've done you wrong very badly and it's like very badly impacted your life?
Those are the people who it's most important to forgive. We tend to forgive from this self-centered perspective, but actually we're forgiving the self. We're forgiving this whole narrative and story that this someone did this to me as a kind of movie or in a vacuum, right? It's cause and effect. Why did that person act in such a way that causes another to suffer? Because they are suffering, because they are confused, because of so many causing conditions. The people they were raised around, the environmental factors that day, that week, that month, that year, their whole life. All these things come together and express in a certain way, right? And then that suffering continues. So when we forgive that person, it's almost that it's not that we forget, it's that we clear the air of our wrong perceptions about the solidity or the separateness of that person. And we also clear the air about the solidity or separateness of our own person. We just forgive, we just end, we just finish. And that, go ahead.
Actions and that like their background is that you can't hold someone accountable for it. Like their background is not responsible for the certain actions that they've done.
Well, don't get stuck in this small point of view. I mean, who's going to hold the moon accountable? Who's going to hold the sun accountable for being too hot that day? Who's going to hold North Korea accountable?
Earthquake
Who's going to
swallowing
hold earthquakes and
thousands of
fires
people.
accountable? Right? It's life. It's cause and effect. Right? And of course, we should take care. We should set boundaries. We should learn from our experiences. Right? We should learn and set boundaries and take care of each other as much as we can, right? But if we overly fixate on holding this person accountable, it's just like we're running on a treadmill. We're exhausting ourselves and we're really not getting anywhere. And even if we do get somewhere, right, we hold this person accountable or that, they get their judgment. Is that really the peace that you're looking for? Is that really the freedom that you're looking for? Why not just forget or end or finish that person, that place, that time? Now. It doesn't mean we just let people do whatever they want to do or something like that. But it's a recognition of our capacity to really let go, even though all kinds of things are happening or happen to us, and not to get stuck in that environment, that place, that time, that circumstance, that person, but just to learn how to free ourselves in an instant. how to forgive in an instant, how to forget, how to abandon, how to put down that which is burdening us, that which is stifling us, and to practice that.
Forces the judgment, then who is?
Well, this is what I'm saying. Who enforces the judgment on Israel? Who forces the judgment on Palestine? Who forces the judgment on a stomachache? Who forces the judgment on a bad day of weather? Where's this cosmic judge, this cosmic jury, or what have you? You understand? You need to take care of your mind and the people who are around you. And you need to let go of those things that burden you. If you are locked into this idea of harming or hurting or controlling or judging or being the punisher, right? It's just going to cause more and more suffering for yourself. You should focus more on taking care, on protecting, on serving, on helping, right? And come back to that intention, and yes, be practical, be engaged. Work towards it, work for it, be involved. But this mindset of, who's going to punish them if I don't punish them? It's like, well, does anyone really need to be punished? Or do people just need help? Are humans human beings?
Which is the goal of the judicial system. Was supposed to be helping at the core. So, excellent points. Not just punishment, understanding.
Not just punishment, understanding, and deep understanding and deep looking.
Okay, so talking from like the perspective of someone who was in like a position of power and they held these like say for example just a group of criminals and they've been brought up in this really rough background to a point where they've been like forced into that position, would you say it's justifiable for them to enforce a punishment onto those criminals despite their backgrounds, despite
No, you shouldn't get stuck in this mindset. It's just nonsense. It's just trash. If it's justifiable, if this person in that scenario, try to help people. I'm not here to teach people how to be judges or government officials or politicians. I'm here to talk to people about how they understand their own mind. All right? If we deal with the situation at the root, then the effects will fizzle out. They will end. If we only deal with the effects, if we see these, young men or people that grow up in this certain environment, and so they express in a very antisocial or negative way, right? We can look at those people and say, oh, they are criminals, or they're black. They've got it in them. They've got that dog in them, right? We got to beat this down. Well, that's ignorance. That's anger. That's delusion, right? And if you look at the context or the roots of that issue or that situation or that environment, you will understand not just the actual practical way to approach the situation, which is more difficult than the surface level reaction to it, but you'll also start looking at the mind, right? What in the mind allowed this to happen? What in the mind allowed these causes to build up to this point where the effect is so rampant in our society, in our community?
Right, and the mind is a collection of habit energy, tendencies, not a self. And that's also how you can understand the discoveries of Robert Sapolsky, if you're familiar with him. And he has a new book, Determined. I read his book, Behave, I Have It, the ebook version, and it's pretty clear that when you examine this free will issue, you'll come to pretty much the same conclusion that no one is totally doing anything based upon absolute free will. Something like.
Sorry, what's the name of the book?
Yes, you want to note this. Robert Sapolsky's newest book is Determined, and it will be another magnum opus, just like his other book, Behave, which is epic. I have to read it again. He studied for decades human behavior and has shown through the scientific process that there is no absolute free will. And as Buddhists, we understand that anyway because we know about mental formations and volitional formations. Too deep for this conversation now, but that resonates with Buddhist psychology, no problem. In fact, we have the doctrine of no self, remember, not self, so no problem for a practitioner of the Buddhist path or their Dharma. But at the same time, you have to understand we live in a world where you need rules and so on. You need the judicial system. So it would be foolish not to, quote, punish someone. But the most important thing is understanding why someone did this or that. And that's what's missing in this system. There's not enough deep understanding. There's no caring. There's no understanding the mind, as Bhante said. We need more understanding. The judges, many of them probably don't know. In fact, I got out of jury duty by citing Robert Sapolsky. They left me alone. I said, I don't believe in your forced jury duty. I don't accept it. It's not democratic. And they left me alone. That was it. Oh, done.
I said, no way. We don't want to deal with him.
We're not dealing with him.
We're not dealing
I
with
cited
that.
Sapolsky. That was like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Evidence. The path of proof. Knowledge and understanding. So, yes, you asked a wonderful question. This is a good topic.
Brother, who's your mentor for mentor-mentee? When does it start? At 3?
3:30.
Oh, it starts at 3:30. Do you know where Tefap Su is setting up?
Yeah, outside that brother's tea house.
Okay.
It's on the deck there.
On 3:30.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Live.
just a little
You
live
say hello.
stream.
We have another monk here. Brother Concentration.
Yes.
Say hello.
Say hello to Brother Concentration. Another
Hi.
another monk
Someone
here.
says hello, Brother Concentration.
You know, that's the people really liked the 2-way interview we did. We should try. We can do 3-way or something like that.
Next time. You have a lot to
And
share.
because I think when people tune in or connect with the Dhamma teachings, Q&A or something like that, there's some people get the teachings and they receive it, but they also maybe feel like outsiders, right? And they feel like they're being taught to or like spoke to. And when they can see a video of us interacting or, you know, how we kind of are in a more communicating with each other, it's like there's more of an in to being a part of that.
Yes.
You know, more being an insider. Right.
Yeah, you feel
Rather
way
than
more
being
in it.
spoken to and kind of like, yeah.
Involved. Involved? Look at the word. Pay attention. Pay attention to language. Involved. Involution. Involved. I like that. Involved.
It is what it is.
Yes. It is what it is.
Okay,
This is mind talking to mind.
we've got
Basically,
one
like that.
person here on YouTube about how do you remove fear of death? So how do you deal with the fear of death?
Well, there's one way, and it's up to you if you do it, but I've experienced near death by taking 5-MeO DMT, and I knew what I was getting into, and I felt like, quote, I died. It was horrible, terrifying, but I don't regret it because I accepted what felt like death at the time, which probably was just a personality ego complex. And I remember the thought, you've gone too far, it's over now. And I looked at my friend, it was my guy, and I thought, wow, I love Brother Muhammad. So I looked at him and just had this deep love, brotherly love, camaraderie. And I thought about my father briefly, and I saw reality. I created a new term, depixelate. I saw reality as pixels that were disappearing. It's amazing. And the heart rate was all over the place. I mean, it felt like my heart exploded. I shattered. But yet I came back. I did not die. So that's insightful. But I'm not promoting that because most people can't handle that experience. I have a very strong mind. And I've always been the type to tinker and experiment. So I did that. And I'm glad that I did that. I don't look forward to doing that again because it was deeply unsettling. That was enough. I saw enough then to know that death is not the end. I can say that.
Also, when we develop a strong attachment to our desires or our expectations or different aspects of our life, then it's natural we will fear to lose them. So when we cultivate a strong attachment to our body, cultivate a strong attachment to a certain kind of environmental situation that we're in, or mental situation that we're in, or social situation that we're in, we feel fear that it's going to change, that we're going to lose it, right? Or that it's going to turn topsy turvy. So learning how to detach from those stories, expectations, those things that seem to make sense, those people, places, and just come home to our mindfulness and abide in that, sink into that, dwell in that mindfulness rather than dwelling in the appearances, mental appearances, physical appearances. And it really is a practice to do that, to tune back into your mindful breathing rather than indulging in that idea, that story, that identity, that narrative.
Yes, and that's what it is. Death, birth, concepts. Based on experiences, but concepts. Drop all of that and just be aware.
Okay, friends. So it looks like we've exhausted our questions. And oh, go ahead. Yeah.
How did both of you start out as like monks? At what age were you, or were you born into that kind of thing?
Well, I started when I was 20 by going to live at a Zen meditation center or a residential meditation center where I lived for a year. And that kind of turned my mind to be a meditator and a Buddhist. And then about 3, 4 years later, when I was 25, I made the decision after connecting with different monks and temples that I wanted to be a monk. So I moved to Thailand in 2018 and began my monastic journey. And Brother Diamond?
My monastic journey began in 2018. I went with a friend to Nepal, but prior to that, I had been watching monks on YouTube. There's a Tibetan monk that he's pretty popular now, Yongey Rinpoche. He's the one who was talking about the monkey mind, and that went viral a few years ago. And there was another Theravada monk I was watching, and I was also reading books about the Dharma, and I went to a Tibetan Buddhist center, and I saw so much love and joy in the monks' eyes. They were serving me tea and answering questions like we're answering questions now. And I knew there was something in me that said, this is the path for you. In so many words, that feeling, that volition. And so I decided when I went to Nepal in 2018 that I would come back and start going to monasteries, which I did. I tried Tibetan monasteries, and that wasn't my thing. And then I ended up at Deer Park Monastery, and I stayed there, which is here where I am now. I was a lay person then, and I kept exploring other places. And I eventually ordained in 2019. And today I'm still in robes. I did an ordination in the Theravada tradition just a couple of years ago and took on higher ordination in the Theravada tradition. I started out in Mahayana, but nowadays I consider myself non-sectarian. I have this form, but in my heart, I take wisdom from all traditions and create my own unique honey, like the bee. The bee goes and takes nectar from different flowers and makes its own honey. Very chaotic, bipolar, manic. In fact, I recently had an insight that I inherited from my mother, mania. I looked up mania out of curiosity. I said, wow, I had mania all those years. That's why I would get super excited and then fall into depression. Impulsive. That's how I could just get up and go to Nepal. When I was 20, I would just get up and go somewhere and think about consequences later. Very impulsive. So Now my mind is stable. I don't have the same type of excitation now. There's a tranquil joy, a very tranquil joy-like experience at moments throughout the day, but no depression, never getting too excited, definitely not falling into depression. Brief moments of anxiety, which is based upon the human condition, but I can say that my mind is totally different now. Whereas before, it's really hard to focus, especially when lust was very dominant, which is normal for us. Hormones, neurochemistry, but now that's more in harmony, not mastered, but I don't lose my quote self anymore over anything. Yes, exactly. I recognize the disposition of mania. I saw that. I said, well, okay, yeah, I can relate. Hypersensitive person, HSP. So I pick up on people's thoughts. And I think that's where this idea of being psychic comes from. My rational approach is it's just HSP. I can pick up on people's thoughts by reading them intuitively. I've always been this way. Sometimes it's wrong, which is theory of mind, but I've had a good theory of mind my whole life. And I used to be trapped in introversion. Not anymore. Yet I still need time to unwind and recharge alone. But I'm definitely not a typical textbook introvert anymore. I'm not afraid of crowds. I'm not afraid of public speaking. I'm not shy around new people anymore. So that's the extroversion metric, if you know about the 5 major personality traits. I've looked at them and they've changed. They've all shifted. It's interesting.
Okay.
Bhante?
So we've got some other activities here at the temple coming up, but appreciate everyone coming out for this live stream, this Q&A, and sharing experience with me, Bhante Varrapanyo, and Brother Nalaka here. We're very grateful for your deep listening and attention. Maybe to finish off, we will say just a small prayer of a metta, or loving kindness. So I invite everyone to join me by bringing their hands together, and then you can repeat after me as we wish for some metta, and starting with ourselves, then those around us, then those far away, and then finally all beings. And that metta is, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be peaceful, starting with ourselves. So welcome to repeat after me. May I be well, happy, and peaceful.
May I be well, happy, and peaceful.
May those who are nearby me be well, happy, and peaceful.
May those who are nearby me may be well, happy, and peaceful.
May any particular person that comes to this mind be well, happy, and peaceful.
May any particular person that comes to this mind be well, happy, and peaceful.
May those who are far away from me be well, happy, and peaceful.
May those who are far away from me be well, happy, and peaceful.
May all beings throughout space and time be well, happy, and peaceful.
May all beings throughout space and time be well, happy, and peaceful.
May it be, may it be, may it truly be.
May it be, may it be, may it truly be.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you everyone for being here and joining in this session. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. Everyone on YouTube, don't be shy to leave a like, leave a comment down below, and look forward to practicing again soon together.
Indeed.
Take care.
Take care. Be well.